now that you've had a couple of days sort of decompress, how do you sort of evaluate how the season went, pre-Olympics, after Olympics?
Yeah, no, I think the sticking point is the January month was tough for us, but I thought the start of the year, I mean, we had a good start. And then a little bit of a bump in the road, and obviously the stretch drive. So for me, the evaluation is the improvement of the guys. And the involvement with, I was really happy with the coaching staff, their relationship with the players. I think that helped the teaching and all that sort of stuff. So I thought there was a lot of good stuff, and a lot of learning too. Like for myself, going into next year, knowing your certain players better and certain things that we can be better at and try, out of the box thinking. So that's the part of the evaluation. But for the most part, I mean, we're excited about going into next year and see where we can go with this.
I know in hockey, sometimes the team makes the playoffs and then the expectations go up, and that gets hard to deal with. In your experience, what are the best ways to deal with expectations going in there?
Yeah, well, being prepared. I mean, that's the big thing, being prepared for it. It's no different studying for an exam, right? But for me, like the expectation, it was clear for me when I took the job with Dan Hilferty and Brian Roberts and Jonesy and Danny, where they wanted to see improvement from players. Can you get this player to get, here or just the development of a player, and we concentrate on that. But also saying that, and then, I know it's the most overused word, but the culture and things like that, to setting a standard. So that's what we're striving for. And, like I said, I'm going to this year, I got to get better as a coach. So hopefully that'll help the standard too, and the expectations, just like our players.
How encouraged are you by Borger Martone and what he was able to come in and do? And, when you look at him, what kind of ceiling do you see?
Well, for me, taking away just his physical and the talent he has is his character. It's, as soon as they drafted him and just getting to know him the last, was he been here 2 months, whatever, how long, 6 weeks, his character, bringing a 19-year-old kid like that, sticking him in your room, high character guy. I think that's something that's it's something that I know Dan and Brian is a big thing with him, his character, and then obviously Danny and Jonesy. So you draft a guy like that, high character, it adds a lot in that room. So that's what impressed me about him. Yeah, the physical, he's got a great shot. I mean, hash mark down, and he really improved his strength and his skating. And I think his development there, I think Michigan State did a great job with him too, by the way. So anyways, yeah, all that sort of stuff.
You mentioned improvement. Is there anyone in particular that maybe stood out to you in terms of improvement from maybe game 1 to game 10?
Yeah, I just don't want to single guys. There was a bunch of guys. The guy leading the charge is about Dan Vladar. I mean, he's probably your poster child when it comes to that. And then you go Dries. I mean, you go down a list of guys. I mean, there's a lot of guys that played well. I mean. But saying that, and I haven't really talked to a lot of players yet. We're doing our exit, whatever you want to. I didn't even call it exit means, but I'm going to see most of the guys again. But we'll talk about the certain expectations. But a lot of guys that have had really good years from our, they're like, man, I can play better. That's what you want to hear. So, but there's a bunch of guys. Sure.
You guys seem to have. And obviously, every team can get better. But you seem to have the defensive elements of the game down with this team well. How do you plan to get more offense out of it? Because, look, it's the playoffs. It's hard to score. But in that 4-game series, you guys only scored, I think it was 5 goals.
Sure.
How do you plan, and this isn't even just a next year thing. This is a long-term thing. How do you plan to get more offense out of this team?
Yeah. Well, how do you score goals, right? That's one thing. You can go – we don't have Connor McDavid. We don't have Nathan McKinnon. So you have to think of other ways, or Makar. You have to think of other ways to score as a team. Puck possession we've talked about. We got to be a better wall team. I think that's something. Corner work and wall work is a very underrated thing when it comes to hockey. If you look at the teams that go far, you watch their inside game. That's something we have to improve on. Finishing. Improvement of your shot. I mean, there's some guys, and I'm not going to name them, that have to get a harder shot, improve a shot, and you can do that. You can do that. I coached Quinn Hughes. In one summer, his shot went from, whatever it went up 12 miles an hour. You can improve that. So that's the sort of, you can, systematically the same thing. Do we want to carry the puck in more? Yes. Be more calculated, of course. But I think puck possession and wall work is something we're going to really concentrate this year. I think that will enhance, more offense from some of the certain players and our team.
Is that something, and like, this isn't, saying this is what you guys are going to do, but
Sure.
I'm thinking back to year 1 and year 2 of John Tortorella's tenure here.
Sure.
Year 1, he was like, okay, we need to fix the fundamentals, we need to fix the defense. And then year 2, he kind of just released the shackles and let them just run and play this heavy, like, transition game. Like, do you envision there being a dramatic strategic shift, or is there going to be more tweaks?
I don't think it's dramatic. There will be definitely some tweaks. And also we're going to dive into, can we practice a little bit differently? That's going to be something I wanted to talk about. Can we practice a little bit more, certain elements that we have to get better at? There's a lot of things that you can do different, and you can't be afraid not to be different. But I'm a believer. I just didn't believe coming in here, first of all, we don't have that type of team to run and gun. To give confidence, you have to stay in games. I've saw a lot of our players, I know people criticize we're a lot of overtime games and tight games, but I think that helped our team. That helped our team the last time. That helps get in the playoffs. Losing 6-4 and just playing run and gun for a young player, I disagree with, because I think you get no confidence. There's nothing worse than a young team. First of all, you're getting the hell beat out of you every night, physically, and you're losing 6-3, 6-4. It doesn't build confidence. Now, I'm saying you have to just play a 1-4 defense and stay back all day. That's not what I'm asking to. But I think the way the players approach this year and being in games, being a 2-2 game and the comebacks we had this year, I think it's going to mean a lot for our team going forward. But saying that, yeah, we have to stretch the envelope a little bit and get some more, and I'm sure the power play question will be coming up, but that's got to get better. Like the offensive stuff, a 2-2 game, 6 minutes left. Can we make 2-on-1? Can we make that play to score, to make it a 3-2 game? Those are the moments we're going to look for a lot more next year.
I'll ask that question then. So
Yeah.
you've talked a million times in just the few weeks I've been around here about strategy with the power play. But now that the season's over, what do you need to add? What will be the number one thing that would make this, that you could bring in that would make this better?
Yeah, so walking into this and the staff together, we knew it was something. It's a 5-year, 6-year problem. It's a talking point every year here. So right away for us it was, we didn't want to make it such a focal point that it took away from other parts, but it is a focal point. It's a mental thing and a physical thing for me. I felt us down the stretch, and we had implemented a lot of young guys in the power play too. So you had to give them, they weren't part of the last 5 years. So you got to give them a break where they're coming in fresh, which is great. We can fresh ideas for those young guys. I just felt some guys were nervous. As soon as we had a power play that we hit the ice, I could feel tension from some guys, and we got to release the tension, and that's my job, to release that tension. So that's the diving into it this summer. Different scheming, different way of practicing. Maybe less information. Sometimes giving too much information makes guys tighter. So we're going to dive deep into it. But I felt, I'll be honest with you, I felt some guys went out there and they were just, you could just see that it was like they were clenching their stick. Because there was Carolina's the litmus test for me, because they just go balls, to the wall. Sorry, and they just go hard. And there was, and I'm not going to bore you guys. We could sit and watch video. I can say there's about 8 plays where we hit just that one, and that's part of the game. I get it, but if we make that play, you got a guy by himself in front. We have a 2-on that. We just were making those plays, and then it as masturbates, or the tension, and then all of a sudden, I didn't like our retrievals. Talking about the power play again, I didn't like our retrievals at all. A lot of times we had 3 against their 2. And somehow we never came out with those pucks on the positive side. We're more on the negative side, and that's got to be an improvement. And that's something we're going to really focus on.
You have a lot of young guys this season.
Yeah.
Martone, Barkey,
Yeah.
Mitchov,
Yeah.
Andre. You're going to have probably even more next season. How is that sort of how do you adjust? You know, you're a coach. When you have an older group, it's one way you can talk to them. When you have a younger group, do you have to change things? You know, you mentioned practice or just your approach.
Yeah, I feel, and with the staff, I give them a lot of credit. There's a lot of communication, like even behind the scenes that they do. You know, like, you know, I know Jay's a big, you know, he's in the lunch breakfast and he's got the computer. And they find he doesn't even go to people now. They come to him. Hey, Jay, can we look at that play that happened yesterday? We're trying to promote that more of a self-starter. You know, you can go grab a kid, you know, let's go watch video, but it's nice when they come to you. And I find that this year, a lot of those kids were doing that. They go, hey, talk, you got a second. You talked about a rush play or a rush against play last game in between periods. And you know, I don't understand what you're talking about. So that I love that. That's the self-starter. And that's what we're promoting. And that's what those kids you just mentioned, they're self-starters. And, they can lean on each other. I mean, I have a little bit of experience when it comes in. I remember in '85, I was one of those young guys, and we had a lot of young guys. And it's nice to have young guys around you. It's not just a veteran team and you have one young guy or two young guys. We got a bunch, and I think that helps, you know, the growth of our team.
How does that, I guess, kind of jumping off that,
Yeah.
you know, how does that help your job when you have all these young guys that are competing with each other for playing time?
Well, it helps. Competition's great. All right. But for me, the communication of them, like, you know, where, you know, a kid can text me out of the blue, and that's when you know that you're on the right page. You know, I'm not saying it happens, you know, all the time. I'm not saying it, but you'll get a text from a kid. Hey, you know, can we come in early and watch video? That's the sort of stuff I love. If I'm not getting that, then I got to change my approach. And I probably, you know, and I'm always searching to get better too. So. That's why these young guys it's important that we communicate with them, good or bad.
And that happened with this group. That was something you would get, you know, I know you
Throughout the year. Yeah. I mean, there was nervousness at the start of the year, but I think the coaching staff helped bridge that with, you know, we're always accessible, but players, you know, you always tell, you know, there's certain players that they're scared to come in, that they don't want to, I don't know why, they don't want to come in or something. You know, maybe they're nervous about something. I don't want that. I want them to know the door is always open. Every coach wants that. The door is always open. It should be, because we're not always right. You know, we overlook things. Like I always tell players, if you got some bullets, come in. Hey man, talk. I only played 10 minutes. I thought I played well, and come in. Let's watch. Oh man, you're right. You know, you had some really good shifts. I lost you on the bench. It's okay for a coach to admit it. You just hopefully you don't do it too many times. You won't be around much if that happens, but I think it's important to have that relationship with players.
Rick, going on the subject of young players, with regards to Mitchov.
Yeah.
After game 4, the focus was more on the team and the ovation, everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was scratched for game 4. I guess, could you go into, you know, when did that decision, and also, you know, where you feel like the player-coach relationship is between you and him at the end of year 1?
Yeah. Well, we just felt, honestly, I wanted to get more speed in the lineup. You know, listen, it's not like everybody was on point in their game. I'm not going to single out him. There's a couple of guys that struggled, and at that moment, as a coach and staff, talked to other people, and we just felt, hey, maybe a little fresh air in the sense. And Mitch is like, it's his first playoff run. He's a second-year player, so I think it's if it happened to another young guy, nobody really say anything, but it's the pressure of that. So we just got to let this kid breathe, because I think he's made a lot of strides. You know, I can't talk for last year, but I can talk for this year that he's made some strides. I mean, he's already. I think he skated yesterday. I mean, it's pretty cool. I'd rather him not skate. I want him to take a break, but I'm not going to tell him I know what to do, because, you know. But to him go out and shoot pucks yesterday is something that he knows that it's something that, you know, he's got, like, it's almost like a vengeance tour, and I love that. I think every player should have some kind of motivation in their head to prove anybody wrong. I think that's really important.
Take it back to the handshake line the other night. The NHL released audio of Rod going through the line. And how did you feel about that interaction that you had?
Yeah.
And what did it mean to you that he said, great job bringing it back? And then the second part to the question is, did you end up taking his advice and take a minute to soak in the atmosphere in the arena?
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, you know, Roddy's relationship with the Flyers fans, I mean, the guy, you know, nobody worked harder. Nobody loved wearing the Flyer crest more than him. And I think deep down, yeah, I mean, he was glad he beat the hell out of us, you know, 4 straight. But I think there's a part of Roddy's sincerity, like I think he appreciated because he felt he knows what it's like to play here when it's successful, where the fans are just like insanely and what they can help the team and, around town wearing orange. He knows it. So for him to see it and basically kind of, hey, take a moment. Did I take a moment? Not really. I mean, honestly, it was just, but I did appreciate it. I mean, I heard it. I mean, and I was, when I went back in the room, I was glad the players were out there getting acknowledged, but even acknowledging the fans, thank you for backing us. So, I appreciate that from Roddy. I mean, he's obviously a great coach, great guy.
Rick, how much have you seen Travis Sanheim evolve this year?
I think the Olympics was huge for him. I think that going into the Olympics, he didn't play the first game. And then when he got in the lineup, he just, since that second game from today, he just gained his leadership, his aggressiveness on the ice, just everything about him. I think you could tell that there was a motivation. I mean, I was on Team Canada, the Olympics. I was one of the part of the 6 defensemen. I think that carried over his confidence coming here with the Flyers and helping our team out.
I asked for Mark yesterday, do you train as a winger or do you train as a center this
Yeah.
offseason? And I'm curious, I know it's only small sample size, but like how do you, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll have more meetings about this going forward, but where do you see him fitting into this puzzle next year?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're going to be our evaluations with Danny and Jonesy, and we'll go through that. But that's a great question because when I threw him in there, I wasn't quite sure what you're going to get. I think he handled himself really well. Is it good that a guy that can play both? Absolutely. To have that hybrid guy could play either wing or, that's a luxury. Do I really want to screw around with a kid, bounce him around, left wing, center every other night? No, I don't think that's healthy for him. So do we have to make a decision on it? Yeah, I don't think we have to. It's got to be like tomorrow that we're going to have to do it. But, I would like to give him a little bit of a heads. Hey, we're thinking of putting you in this situation because at the end of the day, my job is to put young players in good situations, and Barkey's no different. But the one thing with him, though, if there is a guy that you can bounce around every once in a while, he's the guy because his hockey IQ is outstanding. His work ethic is outstanding. And he's a guy that, that can really develop into a really frontline player. I really believe it.
Rick, going back to the power play for a second.
Yeah.
After game 3, we talked to Jamie Dries. Obviously, he made the mistake leading the shorthanded goal in that game. But
Sure.
he said something interesting where he said that, a lot of times, we just don't, as players, we just don't follow the game plan. And it didn't seem like he was saying that they were like willfully ignoring you guys, but it was a frank admission that, a lot of times they go out there, they know what they're supposed to do, and they don't do it. I guess from your perspective as the head coach, like where is that getting lost? Is it, I guess why? Because it was just a very frank admission on his part.
Yeah, of course. I talked to Jamie quite a bit, and big fan. Obviously, he had a great year for us. I think when it comes to power play, you got to see things. Sometimes it's going to take people longer to see things, and I can name 5 or 6 players where you got to to get technical. You're playing against an aggressive diamond, where the top guy is aggressive. He's out of position. Well, you got to see that there should be a 2-on-1 in front of net. If that particular play happens, sometimes we're not seeing it. Or we had a 5-on-3 the other night. And the team, we told them they play 2 up. So if you have 2 up, where do you want the puck to go? Down low. It's got to be a 3-on-2 in front of that. Well, we did a high play. That's what I think Jamie's talking about. We're missing that kind of reads experience. Maybe can we coach it better? Yeah, maybe it probably falls on us a little bit. How do we coach that for them to understand the reads? Is it better to do it on the ice than a video? I've already talked about it with the coaches. We might just have a dedicated half an hour power play practice on one rink before the practice even starts. Now, you're going to have to sacrifice certain things because of that, but I think it's something that we're going to have to dive into because it's been a long time here, a problem. So we're going to have to do some really out of the box thinking to fix this. So how to get better reads, what you're asking is there is coaching, but there's also there's a player thing too. There's a player thing. You got to get, if you want to be on the power play, you're going to have to get these reads. So how do you get these reads? Well, study, live it, practice it, rinse and repeat. That's really what it comes down to when it comes to power play.
Rick, when it comes to Matvey, It's obviously been
Yeah.
beat to death, the
Sure.
conditioning aspect of it. Assuming he learned his lesson from that and comes into camp
Yep.
in physically prime shape, have you seen enough in terms of the skill and the vision to believe that he could become still a high-end top?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he, the kid wants it. Don't get me wrong. But, we have to understand he's 21 years old. He wants it, and we have the tools to help him. And that's a thing that this summer, for him, and he's already got all these different plans, which is great. And we have these tools that can help him. So we got to remember he's 21 years old. Is there the vision? Yes. Is there something that he needs to improve on? Of course. I think there's something he can work on this summer. Separation, speed, all that shot, all that stuff he can work on. But it's not just him. Every young guy, I could carbon copy the exact same thing. You have to be able to improve on all different areas. But he does want to improve. Like I know there's a bit of a narrative like with the coach, like the coaches, and he's in the meetings. Like he's one of the guys that goes grabs Yogi. Hey Yogi, let's go watch the power play. He's one of those self-starters where he wants it. But I think he's learning to understand certain things and how we do things around here. And like I said, he's a spoke in the wheel, and he's a big spoke for us if we can develop him.
Rick,
Last one.
I know with the power play, the season before you got here, they had a real collaborative summer where they were including like John LeClaire, Patrick Sharp, Danny Heatley. Do you treat it like that? Will you try
Well-
to hear from different voices?
Yeah, Johnny's around, and Rex is around, Mark Recchi and Patrick Shaw. Those guys are valuable guys. I mean, they have some good thoughts and good opinions, but they know too. Like they know we're preaching what they're saying, and it's something that we just got to continue to, like I said before, how we're going to do it and implement it, teach it, and because it is definitely something we got to really work on.
Thanks, Tom.
You guys good? That's it? Okay, guys.